if you're having girl problems, I feel bad for you, son.
I got 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one.
Hit me. What is up, Watch fam? I am Christian, the curator of the Theo and Harris Vintage Watch Shop.
And I am Sam, and this video is brought to you by T. Handling.
All right, more on them later. Today's episode is great. You love Jay-Z. I love Jay-Z.
What's not to love?
What's not to love?
H. So is are we going to get demonetized for that?
I don't know. I think it's sued. And then all the company cars are gone. Anyway, today's episode is about Jay-Z and how not just reviewing his watch collection. That would be understating the point. The point is Jay-Z is really one of the most important watch collectors in modern history. What do I mean by that? He is one of the only watch collectors in the world that I think has the ability, and when I say ability, I mean, the knowledge, the passion, the charisma, the taste, paired with, his just influence, right? The guy's social clout to make a difference in this watch industry. Like, he is everything he is the opposite of everything I hate about LeBron. Like what I said about LeBron, which is that, and again, like I know I'm ripping on him a lot, but that he's just an uninformed collector that is just buying whatever is hot. And that does nothing for the industry. And it actually makes it harder for you guys to get watches that you want. Jay-Z is the exact opposite.
Gotcha. Like, his
whole collection, as you'll find, is just thoughtful and beautiful.
I think he's also an underrated collector, which we'll talk about later.
Totally. So we'll go through the watches themselves, what they represent, and then we'll have a conversation about Jay-Z's evolution as not just a musician, but like as a cultural force towards the end as well. And then one question that I think is really interesting, and it's particularly about Cartier and about Tiffany, and we'll get on to all that later. The first watch I want to talk about is actually, I would say that this is the softest watch of the conversation, the watch that proves the point the least, right? And yet still, it's an incredible watch. This is a Patek Philippe reference, 5230. This is a world timer in white gold with a special New York edition dial, which is so freaking cool.
It's very what I would expect Jay-Z to have. That is just so New York.
It's so New York, and it's not hypey at all.
Yep, which I love.
Love that. These watches are high 30s, $36,000 to $38,000 without the New York edition. With the New York edition, it's like $78,000. But high 30s,
it's a lot of watch for that price.
It's a lot of watch, and people don't think about these world timers enough. They don't. They're severely underrated, I think. Everyone's always thinking sport model, and they end up getting robbed on sport models. No value in them a lot of the time. And then you got a perpetual, you got a world time, which is such a cool complication in white gold by Patek Philippe, and it's well executed. This reference is nice for under 40 grand.
Why do you think it goes so under the radar for typical Patek collections?
I think generally speaking, and Michael and I have talked about this many times, how the watch industry is getting more mature by the year. Generally speaking, this is kind of a big boy's Patek in style.
Gotcha.
It's got a leather strap, right? It's got a white gold case. You don't know that this is good until you've had other more basic stuff that's hypey, right? You don't know that this is great until you already spent $90,000 on an Nautilus. That's basically it.
Gotcha.
So this is a mature collector's watch.
All right.
The other thing I wanted to show you was, did you see the enamel version of this watch?
No.
I just wanted to show you the slightly hyped up version of this watch, which is the cloisonné enamel dial. What do you think of that?
I mean, it's obviously beautiful, but I think it's too much.
It's a lot, right?
It's too much. I prefer Jay-Z's version.
That's a busy one.
There's a lot going on. I mean, I love the idea of it, but again, there's a lot going on in that.
Yeah, I think that the problem with that watch, and I love the watch, I think the enamel Pateks are like the coolest thing. I think the problem with that watch is the dial's obviously like the enamel is the show. It's super busy. But I think the print is a lot. And the print of the cities kind of overwhelms the whole thing, and it's just a very busy watch.
It takes away from I think not the purpose of it, but what the design should have been, if that makes sense.
A little bit. Whereas the heritage models, the origin of like the enamel world timer, the cities were done, engraved into the bezel, into the kind of the case, really. And I feel like that was. I mean, what do you think about that?
That to me is more natural, if that makes sense.
It's more balanced.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more balanced. Okay, so moving on from the Patek, the 5230, the next watch I want to talk about, I think, is a really interesting subject. Okay, this is a Rolex perpetual calendar. Rolex never actually made perpetual calendars. They had a couple of calendar watches in the middle of the 20th century, but they never made a perpetual. Okay, so then why does he have one? Well, do you know the watch brand Frank Mueller?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, Frank Mueller. Before it was a big watch brand in the late 80s, he was just a watchmaker. And he basically took a Rolex Datejust and he altered the movement, made a whole new movement for a whole perpetual calendar movement, made a new dial and recased it back in this Datejust. So it's a Rolex perpetual calendar that just never existed.
Yep.
Okay. Now, the interesting part about this watch is that, it had been bumping around the market for years. Like years. This watch is not something that people wanted. I know that there were dealers that had owned this watch 4 or 5 times over 15 years because no one wanted to keep it. It was kind of like a weird, ugly duck.
Why do you think that that's been passed around so much?
I just think that it's kind of like a hot potato. Like maybe I'll buy it and wear it for a little while, and I'll try to. Now, mind you, it was being passed around between dealers, so every dealer thinks that he'll be able to find the guy with more money than sense that'll buy it.
Gotcha.
You're paying maybe $30,000 for it. Hopefully, you could sell it for $300,000 because it's a one-of-one Rolex perpetual, and it's like your gravy train. It's like your dream to find that retail buyer. And then someone inevitably did.
Gotcha.
Someone inevitably found Jay-Z. I don't know what they sold it to Jay-Z for, but I can tell you right now, this watch today, when it used to trade hands like a hot potato in the, below $50,000, okay, I would say this watch is in the several $100,000 range now.
So what are your thoughts on this watch? It's passed around a lot.
Yep.
It's a one of one.
Yep.
And it just looks awesome. So I don't know, walk me through your...
Yeah.
Would you own this watch essentially?
I have a hard time because I have a little bit of a hard time with it because it was so passed around.
Okay.
It's
like the town bicycle. Everyone's had a ride on it.
I feel a little bit uncomfy about it. The truth is, and I know this sounds like a double entendre, but it's been through a lot of Italian guys. I'm serious. Like a lot of Italian dealers have owned this watch and tried to find the jerk off that'll buy it. So my opinion is a little emotional about it. It's like, I don't know. I'm just looking for kind of more wholesome watch.
Okay.
A watch that is just great and hasn't, do you know what I mean?
A watch that you could take to Sunday sauce.
Right. A watch I could take back home, right, to mom. That does bother me a little bit about the watch.
Okay.
Because it's like kind of like just hunting for a jerk off, right? That being said, take that out of the equation. I think it's incredibly cool. I don't think that Frank Mueller is I don't think it matters that it's Frank Mueller. I don't think Frank Mueller is particularly cool. Mueller. I don't really care about Frank Mueller. But any watchmaker that did this is cool. Like it does help obviously that he's a celebrity watchmaker now. But it's like, I think it was kind of genius that they did. This is the only Rolex perpetual calendar in the world. Like when people mod Rolexes, they just add diamonds.
Yeah, I was
added a complicated movement.
Yeah, I was gonna, because my thought process with this is whenever I think of like a modded watch, it's like you see like the Seikos that look like a Yachtmaster or whatever the case is. But with this, it's like no. In my mind, this is still I think it's still a Rolex.
Well, that's
I don't know.
Thing. Is it fake now? I mean, it's got a fake dial, meaning a non-Rolex dial. It's got a non-Rolex movement. Is it fake?
I don't know. It's just done right though. Like I don't know.
That's the thing.
I don't know. I like it. I'm a fan of it.
I think that modding is cool. I don't think it's about, when you say you have a fake watch, your brain is going to like, oh, it's lesser value. It's not real. It's lesser. It's pretending to be something it's not. Well, this isn't pretending to be anything it's not.
Yeah.
This watch is being exactly what it is, which is a highly complicated custom Rolex.
Exactly.
That's cool. Like there's nothing not cool about that. So on a sheer material level, I happen to think that everyone that didn't buy this years ago when it was in the 20s and 30s and 40s and just trading hands looking for a jerk off, I think everyone made a mistake. I think it was always that cool. Yep. It was always. I mean, now it has the Jay-Z celebrity, so it's overvalued.
Of course.
But this watch always should have been a $100,000 watch. So when it was trading well below, it was wrong.
So if Frank Mueller never started Frank Mueller, do you think that the watch still would have had this hype to it?
No, I don't think so. I think that because it has his association, it matters.
Gotcha.
But it's still cool. It still would have been cool if it didn't. Like
no, I agree with that.
There are watch, modding companies like Artisans de Genève. They're not Frank Mueller, right? Mm-hmm. They're working on material, not so much brand. It's more about like, this is just a cool thing. And I don't know. I think they're great. I think that modding is great. When it's improving the watch, or I don't know. I think it's a really good way to spend extra money. Like,
I agree. No, and it's that's what I like about it. The individuality of it, make it your own, something different, and that you walk into a bar, you're the only one with this watch.
There is the watch.
There is something nice about that,
and it's also like a watch like that, a watch that's kind of polarizing. If you own that, it kind of means like you're taking a stance, like you're kind of in this hobby now. It's like, no, you're like, Jay-Z's saying like, oh no, I'm thinking independently, which is kind of the thesis of the video, right? Mm-hmm. Like that Jay-Z thinks independently about his watches, that he has, he's thinking, he likes watches and is not just following the herd. He has his own opinion, right? Mm-hmm. And that makes you a real enthusiast, a real tastemaker,
I agree with that.
Student of watches. Do you think you would ever actually use a perpetual calendar? Would you ever buy a perpetual calendar?
I would love to have one. I just don't know how on top of it I would stay.
Because if you keep it in a watch winder, you're good.
Okay, good. Then I would need a watch winder.
You're like, I would need a really expensive
watch winder.
Because if you don't, and you like lose the day or whatever, if you don't adjust with like the little pin, you're gonna end up with a perpetual that needs to be like reset by not you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like you will break.
I'm gonna need professional help for this one.
Exactly. Well, you need professional help either.
Regardless, we know this.
But I think that a lot of times these dials can look very, very busy because they're communicating so much. But I like this Rolex dial.
I think that it's balanced. Like where I feel like some watches can have too much going on the dial. This to me, it's beautifully balanced. To everything fits. There's a little bit of space. Yep. I don't know. It just works.
Well, you kind of felt that the Patek enamel was something that was a little bit too busy.
Busy for me.
Yep. I agree with you. I think this is a really well, not just made dial, but designed dial.
Agreed.
Hey, Sam.
What's up, Michael?
Nothing much. Just doing a quick sponsor read. So the first thing people notice about Jay-Z is probably his watch. But the second thing is probably how beautiful his skin is.
Guy's got good skin.
He's got good skin. I don't know if he's using Tiege Hanley, but they sponsored today's video. So we're going to chat about them for a little bit.
Sounds like a plan.
They help men start and maintain a skincare routine by simplifying the entire process. Honestly, it's the best skincare system for guys like you and like me who both have skin.
Yeah, I recommend that you start with their level 1 system, which comes with the basics.
They have a daily face wash that gets rid of the dirt and grime on your skin.
They have a 2 times a week exfoliating scrub to get rid of dead skin cells.
And they have an AM moisturizer and a PM moisturizer. The AM moisturizer has SPF 20 because you should always be protecting your skin from the sun's harmful rays.
My favorite part about Tiege Hanley is that every box comes with a set of instructions that tells you when to use each product. This is huge for me because I have no idea when I should be using certain products to clean my face.
You just put on your little peepers and you're like, oh, okay, AM moisturizer in the morning, and you go from there.
Wait.
You know what peepers are? You're like your point, like your plus 125 peepers. Yeah, of course.
Peepers?
Yeah, in addition to amazing skin, members of Tiege Hanley get tons of benefits, including at least 20% off retail price, the ability to customize your box, exclusive monthly details, and you can pause or cancel at any time. And on top of all of that, you get free U.S. shipping.
Love that. And because Tiege Hanley is sponsoring today's video, they're offering our viewers a great deal. Click the link in our description. You'll get 30% off your first box, plus a free gift. Don't miss out on this amazing deal. Click the link and get started today. Thank you, Tiege Hanley.
Thank you, Tiege Hanley.
Now, this next watch is... I would say, if there's any doubt that Jay-Z is a real watch collector, this puts it to rest. Okay, this is a Patek Philippe reference, 2499, which is one of the most desirable references of all time. Mm-hmm. And this is in one of the least desirable on a material level versions because it has this attached bracelet as opposed to just a traditional lug and leather strap. Okay. But it is just one of the rarest pieces imaginable. Okay. What's kind of cool about this watch is it was originally made with this bracelet. It is one of, at most 4. It's actually believed that it's not one of 4. It's actually one of less, maybe 2 or fewer. But it's at most one of 4. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it was born this way. sometime in its life, and it was born in the 80s like this, sometime in its life, I don't recall when, the watch was converted. Okay. It was sent to Patek Philippe, and the owner asked the bracelet to be removed and the lugs to be soldered on to make this just a regular old 2499.
Okay.
Which is one of the most, just one of the hottest and coolest and most desirable watches of all time. Okay. But technically, like, he ruined the watch.
Yeah.
He took a 1 of 4 and turned it into a regular 2499.
Yeah.
Okay. Because he didn't like the bracelet. It was a different world of collecting. You could alter things without, being total sacrilege. It traded hands eventually.
Okay.
And it was sent back to Patek Philippe.
For them to restore it.
For them to restore it back to original spec, the way that it was born. Okay. This was in the private collection of a big watch collector. He used to be a dealer. Now he's a collector. And it inevitably ended on the wrist of Jay-Z. Okay.
Okay.
Now, not only is this a grail of grails, right, as a reference, but this watch, like the Franck Muller, in my view, is just more evidence that Jay-Z is at the forefront of watch collecting.
Gotcha.
It takes a real collector, a real knowledgeable person, a real passionate person to look at something that other people don't like and say, no, I see the value and beauty in that. And Jay-Z's done that here. This is an ugly duckling watch in many ways.
This is a very you watch.
Well, thank you very much. It's a very me watch for sure. But again, on a global level, this is the least desirable version of this watch.
Which is so fun. I find that hard to believe.
Well, don't you think that the gold bracelet and how ornate it is would just turn most people off?
I get it, because I guess it's where we're from, where I'm so used to seeing a gold bracelet and a gold watch.
Right.
But I don't know, it's still a Patek. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there is just something about whenever I hear the name Patek or see a Patek that I'm just like, I don't know, I feel like I should like this.
Yeah, but that's a brand.
And no, it's a brand thing 100%, but the way that dial looks, then with the gold, like the gold just gives it almost a sportier look in a way.
Right. That
I feel like when on a leather strap, you don't get.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like this bracelet is so thick and big, kind of, that it kind of does feel like big and sporty in a weird way.
Yeah.
If it was a thin little gold bracelet, it would have felt very dressy. But you're right. It feels very ornate, almost over ornate, and a little bit sporty. It's thick as shit. And I think that it ended up in Jay-Z's collection, and not only the fact that it ended up in his collection, and he made a kind of like an unpopular opinion to say that this watch is maybe the best, right? Arguably, it's a vintage Patek, right?
Yeah.
It's a vintage Patek that no one really liked before, and no one would put their money where their mouth was. Not really, maybe a couple people, but no one as influential as Jay-Z, right? I mean, everyone likes the Crash, right? Everyone likes a Nautilus. Everyone likes a Richard Mille, but this shows an independent thinker.
Well, it shows that you're a collector.
Exactly.
You care about watches.
Exactly. And the guy that sold it to him, he made some remarks on the sale, and he said he was just, meaning Jay-Z, was so interested in the history.
Really?
He was so enthusiastic about the watch that he was like, I had to sell it to him. Like, it was just so cool to see him that into it.
Love to hear that.
Which is not right. I don't think that LeBron is getting into like the nuance in the history. It's
kind of just like, I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this.
I got a lot of money. Yeah. I'm going to pretend to know what this is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that this is a really, really cool, I think this is probably the definitive evidence.
Okay.
The watch on your wrist, unlike your iPad, will mean something to someone one day if it doesn't already. Something that will make them smile, walk a little taller, surely at some point cry, but it will mean something. And the last one is it, again, I keep saying it's the definitive evidence, but I keep saying it again because there's just such overwhelming evidence that Jay-Z's a perfect watch collector. This is another piece. In 2012, Jay-Z was going to some music thing. I really don't even remember what it was. And legend has it, I think it's actually true, that he called up Ben Clymer, the founder of Hodinkee, and asked him what watch he should wear.
Okay.
And Ben Clymer said, this particular Reverso ultra thin in rose gold. Not only do I think it's pretty neat that Jay-Z knew to call Ben. That's you clearly know watches.
Yeah.
You're into watches, right? Come on.
Yeah.
But I also think, like, the fact that Ben recommended such a, relatively speaking, normal guy watch.
Yeah.
And then Jay-Z was like, yep, sounds good. I'm going to wear that. That's not a flex watch. Not really.
No.
It's not, I mean, it's like a, $20,000 watch, secondary market. That watch probably like 13 grand right now. Like, that's not a flex watch to regular people like us. Obviously, if you see that watch, you're like, oh wow, that's a really nice watch. But to a guy like Jay-Z, that's not a real watch. That's not a watch. Like to a guy of that wealth, that's not a flex. You're flexing on no one with that watch, meaning money wise. But on the understated sense, it's like, yeah, I'm a billionaire and I'm wearing a time only rose gold Tickled Culture.
Yeah.
What's up?
I'm doing this for me.
I'm doing this for me, which is the common thread throughout this.
Yeah, of all of it. Again, going back to being a collector and almost teetering on the not aficionado, but caring about watches, the history, wanting to learn about them. Like, that's awesome.
I think it makes you kind of like a student.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
A student of watches, you know? So not only is all that cool, he wore it again like last year. So 10 years later, not only does Jay-Z still have this time-only rose gold Reverso that's worth now $13,000, but he wears it out. Like, he still wears it.
Yeah.
Like, I just think that is so clearly something a watch collector, a watch lover would do. Mm-hmm. Again, I love the Reverso, but it's just surprising to me, or maybe not surprising because it's Jay-Z, but it makes me happy that he like knew where to go in his watch box to get his tuxedo watch.
Yeah, like I like that idea of it. It's like, I don't know, and I don't know if he thinks like this, but it's like, oh no, like this is my tuxedo watch. This is my, I don't know, I'm going to a Nets game watch. Right. Like whatever it is.
Yes.
I like thinking of a watch collection like that. Like, what are the utilities to each watch?
Totally.
When do I wear these watches?
And it also means you're thinking about the watches.
100%.
Which I don't think LeBron is. People, if anyone that likes LeBron is going to just be like, is this fucking guy kidding me? What has LeBron done to this man? You know, I don't know. At this point, he's just a stand-in. It's just like Jay-Z is the best.
He's just a scapegoat.
There's nobody better than Jay-Z, and there's nobody worse than LeBron. Sorry, guys.
Well, anyway, one question that I do have with the Reverso, and I think I know the answer to this, but you've never purchased one for yourself, correct?
I never had.
Okay.
Period. I've owned them for the shop, but I actually, when we were hanging out on Friday night or Saturday night, when did we get drunk and I fall asleep on the couch at 9 p.m.?
Saturday. Both nights, actually. And I threw my back out golfing. I mean, it's this is 27.
Exactly. I bought a white gold Reverso with a salmon dial reversible to gray.
Beautiful.
I just bought my first Reverso. I don't know if I'm going to keep it. We'll see. I really don't know. But I'm really, really excited to get it.
What was the hesitation with the Reverso compared to like getting, like, could you own X amount of tanks?
Yeah. So honestly, I love the Reverso. The only reason I haven't owned a Reverso 10 times over is because the ultra thin, which is my favorite.
Yeah.
It's like a different case proportion. Right?
Gotcha.
It's thinner. It's longer. It's big for my wrist. It is.
Okay.
It's got like these lug horns that jut out over my wrist, and it just doesn't look good.
Gotcha.
That's the only reason.
All right.
Other than that, I would have had 5 by now.
I was gonna say it's like right up your alley of the watch.
Have you seen them, like the green one, like and everything?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, that one, and I don't know. I feel like every time I see them,
there's blue.
I don't know what it is. Like and I don't get the utility of it because it's like you just turn it around and it's like it's just something different. Like
what, like an engraving or something?
An engraving's cool. Like it's like you just turn into a bracelet at that point.
That's kind of cool.
But like I kind of like it.
What would you engrave on the back of a Reverso?
I would just have you pick it out for me.
Yeah, you would. I'm thinking about what I would engrave. What would I engrave? I don't know. I gotta think of something good. Right. Maybe we'll get Reversos.
I don't hate the idea.
Anyway, so that's the Reverso, which I think is the cherry on top here. I think that we've proven, I think 1, 2, 3, a minimum of 3 times. I think the Patek is actually really cool too, but I think a minimum, meaning the Patek World Time. Yep. But a minimum of 3 times, I think that we've proven that this guy is just a watch god.
Yeah. No, the collection, it seems like, and even though there are like Richard Meals and you know, other stuff as well, but those 3 watches, everything we kind of just spoke about, I think just kind of shows that no, he gives a shit.
Totally. I want to ask you a couple of questions though.
Sure.
I mean, you know, you are much more fluent in like the music world than I am.
Okay.
Sam, I don't know if you guys told you, Sam has, you know, been a DJ on the weekends for his whole life since you were like 12.
Yeah.
So
weddings, bar mitzvahs, sweet 16s.
Yeah. As always.
Bars in Hoboken.
Now you're old guy.
Yeah, exactly.
But tell me a little bit about kind of the evolution, the cultural evolution of these 90s hip hop rap guys.
Gotcha.
Period. I mean, because Jay-Z has kind of flourished into like an elder statesman, a very classy guy. It's a very far cry from where he started. So.
Well, I think that it varies on the rapper. But when you look at Jay-Z, I think the biggest thing is obviously came up in Brooklyn, was a drug dealer for his youth or his teenage years, and then started rapping and transitioned that or parlayed that into then investing in other businesses, the 40/40 clubs, Rock Nation is like I think one of the more recent ventures. And what I think that he did, and when you look at his style, and I'm assuming the watches go the same way, is there was a certain point in his career where he switched from being Jay-Z the rapper to Jay-Z the businessman,
right,
or the entrepreneur.
Right.
Whereas I think a lot of other rappers, an example might be like a Snoop Dogg, who has parlayed a career into doing cooking shows with Martha Stewart, which is amazing and hysterical.
Yeah.
But has still been more, I'll say, himself, of kind of like the kid who came from the hood or the ghetto and grew up, and still kind of keeps that with him.
Yes.
Whereas I think Jay-Z saw the bigger picture or wanted to break out of, I don't know if it's the stereotype or whatever it is, to be, no, I'm not, the guy from the ghetto. I'm the businessman.
Right.
And doesn't he ever forgot where he came from?
Exactly. No, but I already know how you feel about that. So I'm not implying that you felt any other way. It's like, you'll always be the guy from Bed-Stuy, and that's a great thing. But you've evolved into, or developed into like kind of a best case scenario for anyone, no matter where you came from. Yep. You are a mogul of business. You have a tremendous amount of class, not just in your watch taste, but in your public persona. I think Jay-Z, it's fun when someone's going to post some link down below to something horrible he's done, and I'm not aware.
He did stab someone once, I think.
Oh, come on.
But
that was... You know what I mean? What did the guy do? You know what I mean, my friend? But I just feel like he's really kind of. I'm a little bit up Jay-Z's ass. I've always loved the guy. So, but I think he's a model. I really do. I think that he really does embody a lot of just healthy messaging. Yeah. Like I don't know. I think that he is. I think he's a healthy role model.
I agree. Did you ever see the video of him? I think he was taking the subway to Barclays for like a sold out show or whatever, and he's sitting next to a woman who has no idea who he is.
That's hysterical.
And he's just having like, my name's Sean Carter.
Yeah.
Like I'm a rapper, whatever. Yeah. And she's like, oh, like I might know who you are. Like it was just so funny.
It's, like the whole thing online. It's like people ask, would you rather have like $500,000 or have dinner with Jay-Z? Have you heard this?
Yeah. Did you hear what he said to it?
Yeah. He's like, yo, take the money. The money, because everyone, it's like a thing on social media where people are like, $500,000 is nothing. Like in the grand scheme, the wealth of knowledge I would gain from Jay-Z in a night would set me up for life to make millions. And he's like, yeah, I don't think so. Like I don't think that you should do that. Definitely take the money.
Also, I don't know like what realm of like brilliance he has, but he doesn't write anything going into a studio session. So everything, like he'll walk into a studio session. I was watching a few interviews.
Wasn't he always writing in like iambic pentameter and everything, like the whole like Shakespearean?
Oh,
I remember that.
Maybe.
Yeah, I remember that.
But I was watching a video with, I think it was Pharrell, and he's like, yeah, he literally comes in the studio, here's the beat, listens to it for like 20 minutes, he'll start humming, he'll go in and basically lay on a verse or the whole rap, whatever he's got in his head, and then he'll keep all the words the same and go in and just work on different, kind of when he's saying the words, is he speeding it up, slowing it down? Yeah. But the words are basically like the rap's already done. Yeah. And he just comes up with it in his head, whereas I just could never imagine having that ability.
No, he's a brilliant guy. And again, seeing the evolution, right, from kind of being I guess like a lot of other, I'm trying to think of like other examples. I think Cristiano Ronaldo is another guy that's kind of like that. I think that he's just kind of grown into a little bit more of like a, sexy European model, and Jay-Z has grown into like an adult businessman. You know what I mean? Not to say that Cristiano Ronaldo isn't a businessman. God, I think he's a billionaire. I mean, I don't mean that. I just mean, and he's a more serious, more of a serious captain of industry type. Yeah. He's more of the Rockefeller type than Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah. I know that it's a far cry, but I think it's pretty accurate. But to see him go from kind of like the toothless, ghetto kid that, stabbed people and sold drugs and was kind of proud of it, I guess, to, to
being worth like $2 billion.
To a well-spoken, gentleman, I think is like just the most incredible story.
I agree.
It's great. I'm not like I'm not the biggest Beyonce fan, honestly.
I mean, I'm a fan of Beyonce. I like the new album.
Yeah, I didn't listen to it.
That's very good.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest
Especially
Beyonce
for a house
fan. Although I did like, was it Goldmember?
Oh, she was great. Foxy Brown, right?
Foxy
What was her name?
Brown. Foxy Cleopatra.
That's it.
Wow, that's a good one, right? I remember when I used to watch it, I had no idea who Beyonce was. I just thought she was the pretty girl in the movie. I was like, oh, it's Beyonce. I'm like, go figure.
She had a pretty developed career by then, too.
No, I just had no idea. I had no idea. But anyway, Jay-Z is everything right with the watch world. Jay-Z is a shining star in the watch world. I'm actually kind of embarrassed, and I'll talk about him more when I'm referencing, like positive influences in the watch industry. I'm always referencing the John Mayer talking watches, like always. And that's an important thing, very important, God. But Jay-Z has just done wonders for it. And that's it. I hate to just be hypercritical and shit on someone like I shit on LeBron the other day without, lifting someone else up and showing that, this isn't just like a show where we just get nasty about people, right? This is like, no, this is well reasoned. Yeah. I've arrived at this conclusion like logically.
Obviously, looking through his collection, the one Cartier that's in there is the Crash, which is a beautiful watch that goes without saying. Why do you think he only has one Cartier in the collection and it stops there?
It's a good question, right? So Jay-Z, we didn't list all the watches. He has many more watches than this, but these are the most important so far as I see it. But, Jay-Z's got the Crash skeleton, which I think is the coolest Crash maybe of all time. I think it actually is the coolest Crash of all time. I think it's actually even cooler than the original Crash.
Yeah.
Hang me for it, okay? But I think the reason that he hasn't gotten into Cartier at this point, and I think that would be a logical evolution for his collection. I think that like original Crashes and original odd Cartier London, Cintre, like I could see Jay-Z getting into uber rare Cartier, like impossible to get stuff. And I think the reason he hasn't is because he and his wife have a relationship with Tiffany.
Really?
They are like sponsors, like they're brand partners.
I did not know that.
So I wonder if the Tiffany corporate has said, like, hey, like, not only are you pro Tiffany, like, you can wear other brands, but you can't wear our direct competitor. You can't wear Cartier. You're not actually allowed to wear Cartier.
Really?
I don't know.
Interesting.
I'm just speculating. And then that comes to the point, it's like, as Jay-Z, it's like, I don't know, I already have a couple of fucking $1 billion. I kind of want to wear Cartier. Like, if that's the case, at what point do you say, like, keep your money?
Yeah, exactly.
At what point?
I don't know.
Maybe at 2.5 billion?
Not 2.2 or wherever he's at.
I love what I do, but I wouldn't do it for $1 less.
Awesome. One last question for you.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one watch in the watch shop right now to give LeBron.
LeBron?
Not LeBron, I'm sorry, Jay-Z.
I wouldn't give him anything. It's horrible. I hate him. What are you listening to me?
Jay-Z. What would you like? Is there one that comes to mind where it's like, I could see him wearing this? Yeah,
it's a good question. I don't want to get too heady about it. I mean, I think that the Patek Gondolo, the blue one with the yellow gold, I think it would be his style.
Gotcha.
It'd be really, really cool. I would tell him like, kind of a la your Reverso.
Yeah.
This is not a complicated watch, but it is a really cool vintage Patek, and I think you'd be really interested in opening up the door and looking into vintage Patek from the 70s. I think that you'll really love the design. I think that some of these cases and what they did with bracelets and what they did with cases is remarkable. It's just remarkable in all precious metal. And I think that I'm seeing that a little bit in your $24.99, and you really should look at some of these white gold Pateks from that era. And I know that this is not that watch. It's a $13,000. It's a great watch. God, I love it. I can't get over it. It's huge for the era, but that's not like the Grail 70s Patek. But he can afford the Grail, and this would be like a really good doorway into that. That's would be my recommendation.
All right, awesome.
Yeah. All right, well, that was awesome. Thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, like it and subscribe to our channel. If you want more content from Theo and Harris, subscribe to our channel over on The Zero. We post content every single week. We do podcasts all the time. Sam's on them sometimes.
Yep.
Michael's on them sometimes, and it's great. If you do join, go ahead and shoot me a DM there. I answer all the DMs, and I'd love to chat watches with you. Watches are unimportant to the time. They can't speed, slow, or stop it, and our phones tell it better. But as vessels for memories, they know few rivals.